Buenas prácticas y tendencias de la industria extractiva.
Implementación de energías renovables en el sector minero y la transición energética. Transparencia en la información ambiental en el sector extractivo.
Gestión y gobernanza de recursos naturales a nivel subnacional.
Mainstreaming, avances y desafíos.
Equidad de género en el sector extractivo. Cooperación triangular para el fortalecimiento de la implementación de la EITI en Colombia y Perú. Los países de América Latina y el Caribe implementan la EITI y son epicentro de innovaciones y buenas prácticas, convirtiéndose en referentes para otros países implementadores. Alemania, Colombia y Perú implementan desde 2018 un proyecto de cooperación triangular para el fortalecimiento de los procesos EITI en los países y el intercambio de experiencias entre ellos. Este tipo de cooperación permite establecer una relación de tipo horizontal, en donde cada país ha aportado desde sus conocimientos y competencias y ha recibido apoyo según sus intereses. En Colombia, se han apoyado las discusiones sobre pagos ambientales y la implementación subnacional, mientras que en el Perú se ha documentado la experiencia subnacional ya en marcha y se ha apoyado la concepción de su portal de datos. Este proyecto se realiza gracias al apoyo del Fondo Regional para la Cooperación Triangular en América Latina y el Caribe, instrumento del Ministerio Federal de Cooperación Económica y Desarrollo de Alemania para apoyar a la región. Con el apoyo de Cooperación Alemana, GIZ, EITI Colombia, EITI Perú.
Ladies and gentlemen, honourable ministers, colleagues, welcome to this webinar on gender equality in the extractive industry. We're very pleased that you could join us today for this next 90 minutes, where we'll discuss one of the most important issues and challenges facing our sector. My name is Nikki Black. I'm the director at the International Council on Mining and Metals. We're an organisation that brings together a third of the global mining sector to promote sustainability and improve performance across the sector. We're strong supporters of EITI, and we're delighted to help facilitate this discussion today. I'd like to thank the partners who have hosted this webinar, EITI Colombia, EITI Peru and GIZ, and I'd like to take a moment to introduce our panelists today. We have a fantastic wealth of experience and insight on the panel to discuss this important topic. So to begin, I'd like to welcome Parliamentary State Secretary Elizabeth Winkelmeyer-Becker. In her capacity as Parliamentary State Secretary at the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy, Elizabeth is acting as a political representative of the Federal Minister, in particularly with relation to the Bundestag and the parliamentary groups. She also serves as the Federal Government's Special Representative. The Parliamentary State Secretary is also in charge of coordinating the implementation of the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, which we'll be discussing today, in Germany, as well as representing the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy on the Supervisory Board of Deutsche Bahn AG. She's a lawyer by training. She spent 13 years serving as a judge and has been a member of the German Bundestag since 2005. So welcome, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us today. I'd also like to introduce Vice Minister Miguel Loreto Rebeldo. Before joining the government in 2018 and now serving as Vice Minister of Energy, Miguel worked as an associate and partner at renowned national law firms, leading in the structuring of public-private partnerships in the transport sector and providing regulatory advice to domiciliary public service companies of drinking water, energy and gas, among others. He's an expert in the design and formulation of public policies for the mining and energy sector. He has more than 10 years of experience in leadership positions and has participated in all sectors of the domiciliary public services. Having practiced law as an advisor, consultant, and project structurer, he's held management and leadership positions in the energy sector. So, Miguel, welcome to the conversation. Thank you. And finally, I'd like to welcome Mr. Juan Camilo Nariño, President of the Colombian Mining Association. An economist, Juan Camilo has held leadership positions in both the public and private sectors, including as Vice President of the Asociación Nacional de Empresarios, ANDI, where he was responsible for the operation of the sectoral chambers, the negotiations of the commercial agreements with Europe and Korea, and the regulatory strategies for each sector of the economy. He was co-chairman of the Business Council of the Pacific Alliance during its constitution and negotiation, and worked for the OAS in the peace negotiations with self-defense groups, as well as being the anti-corruption czar from 2002 to 2004. He's currently serving as an active member of the Advisory Council of Pro-Colombia, the Institute of Political Science, and the National Trade Council. So thank you, all three panelists. Welcome to what I think will be a fascinating discussion ahead. To briefly provide an overview of the time that we'll spend together today, I'll shortly introduce a video that's been prepared to provide an overview of the topic of advancing gender equality in the extractive sector. I'll then introduce a video from the Executive Director of EITI itself, before I turn to Elizabeth to provide some opening remarks to frame our conversation, followed by 3 discussion sessions. Firstly, setting the scene of gender equality in the extractive sector and hearing the experience of both Colombia and Germany to frame some of the challenges. Then turning to how the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative standard and how they relate to gender plays a role in advancing gender equality in the extractive sector. And then, as is pressing for many of us at this time, thinking about how COVID-19 and the current disruption is really shaping the path ahead and what may need to be done differently or new things that may need to be taken up as we forge a path forward on these issues. So that's the outline of our time together. I'm looking forward to the conversation. I'm sure you are. And I'd now like to ask for the first video providing an overview of this topic to be played.
Equidad de género en el sector extractivo. La actividad extractiva beneficia e impacta de forma diferenciada a hombres y mujeres. Debido a los roles de género asignados mayoritariamente a las mujeres, ellas son más vulnerables a los impactos negativos generados especialmente por el acceso y uso del agua y el subsuelo, recursos necesarios para el desarrollo y subsistencia de las comunidades. Persisten importantes obstáculos en el logro de la equidad de género y su transversalización en el sector extractivo, y con ello el acceso a oportunidades. La falta de datos desagregados fácilmente disponibles implica una limitada capacidad para tomar decisiones informadas y desarrollar políticas y presupuestos con perspectiva de género. El sector público y los ministerios sectoriales pueden tomar el liderazgo, impulsando políticas de equidad de género que promuevan la autonomía física, económica y en la toma de decisiones de las mujeres. El sector privado tiene un rol en el desarrollo de cadenas de suministro sostenibles y en la promoción de la igualdad de género en las empresas, mientras que la sociedad civil y su participación son esenciales para asegurar el diálogo en torno a la igualdad de oportunidades y uso sostenible de los recursos extractivos. La industria puede ser una articuladora en la reducción de las brechas de empleo y la incorporación de las mujeres en la toma de decisiones en el sector público y privado, potenciando los liderazgos femeninos en las comunidades, empresas y Estado. De esta forma podrá contribuir sustancialmente al logro del ODS 5, siendo posible utilizar los ingresos generados a partir del petróleo, gas y minerales para reducir las brechas de género. Con el apoyo de Cooperación Alemana, GIZ, EITI Colombia, EITI Perú.
So after that framing of the issues, I'd now like to introduce the video by the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative Executive Director Mark Robinson to provide an update on the standard and where we are with its implementation. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm delighted to join you for this meeting with its focus on the important issue of gender. I especially welcome all of you to this discussion, distinguished panelists, honourable ministers, and all of you as participants who've taken valuable time out of your day to participate. We all know that gender is a key development driver. It's really welcome that the extractive community is now increasingly embracing its importance. We at EITI have started on a journey. Just a year ago at our 2019 Global Conference, we launched a revised standard, and in that standard we had a new provision recognising the importance of gender considerations to foster transparency and accountability in the sector. So we are encouraging companies, civil society and government leaders to use the EITI as a platform to integrate gender into extractives governance. And in the standard we set out 3 ways in which this can be achieved, integrating this in turn into country. The first is to ensure that women have an equal place at the table to men. In taking decisions on the governance of the sector, it's essential that gender considerations are considered. This is why, one of the reasons why the EITI standard asks countries to report on the composition of EITI bodies, importantly the multi-stakeholder groups. Today, we know that women represent just 1/5 of MSG members across all implementing countries, indicating that women don't yet have a representative voice when it comes to EITI implementation. However, there's some very good news from the LAC region, with some countries performing especially well. And I'm delighted to say that within Latin America, that region comes top in terms of gender representation in multi-stakeholder groups. On average, in the 10 countries implementing EITI in the region, 41% of multi-stakeholder group members are female. That's a terrific achievement, and we really hope to see those numbers rise to parity in the near future. The second area is providing data on the contribution made in areas such as employment and local content from a gender perspective. One example is to break down employment in a specific region by gender, as Mexico and Honduras have done in recent reporting, and countries like Colombia and others are planning to do so. The third is that data is not helpful unless it's properly used. We call on civil society, governments and companies to facilitate public debate on women's participation in the extractive sector and to ensure that women and men benefit equally. And that means that ensuring debate is inclusive and that data is accessed by all groups. Public debate can be supported by documenting how gender considerations have been taken into account in policies that promote resource governance. So let's make this the beginning of many conversations in Latin America and the Caribbean. Each country is unique and has its national priorities. One size fits all does not work, but progress in this area will come when we all work together and learn from each other. Thank you.
Some very encouraging numbers there, and a progress update from Mark Richardson. Wonderful to hear. I'd now like to invite Elizabeth to share some framing remarks to open our discussion. Elizabeth, welcome. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody. Dear Vice Minister, Mr. Nariño, ladies and gentlemen, dear Nikki, as I may say, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm delighted to take part today as the first female EITI champion in Germany. Today's topic of gender justice is of key importance for the development of our societies, not just for the raw materials industry. It's also a topic that's very close to my heart and which I have been campaigning on for many years. I'm therefore particularly pleased that the new EITI standard integrates gender aspects and that we can exchange views on this today. When we talk about gender equality in the extractive industries, most often it's about employment issues. The classic image in people's minds is of the miner, the man working underground. But today, the reality looks like quite different. The raw materials industry has a wide variety of modern job profiles and offers many career prospects. Technological developments are increasingly built around digitalization, automation, robotics, and AI. This means that mining engineers, both male and female, are just as much in demand as IT specialists. The modern raw materials industry comprises occupational health and safety, environmental protection, post-mining, and the sustainable and responsible use of resources. And in small-scale artisanal mining, around 30 to 50% of employees around the world are women. But the question of employment is just one aspect of gender equality in the extractive industries. Another equally important question is who benefits from the extraction of raw materials and who suffers from its impact. Do raw materials projects strengthen existing inequalities or do they help to reduce them? The third aspect of equality, which is also just as important, is the opportunities for women to participate in the sector. Women often have less access to political and economic decision-making processes in the raw materials sector. But these inequalities in employment, in benefit and impact, and in participation are not just a question of equal rights. They also have an effect on sustainable development in this sector. If we want to foster economic and social development in regions rich in resources, we first need to strengthen the rights of women and girls in the raw materials sector. This link between gender equality and sustainable development has been emphasized in the German government's new raw materials strategy published earlier this year. Germany is a member and supporter of the International Partnership Women's Rights and Mining. This partnership fosters discussion on the issue of equal rights between different interest groups in the mining industry. And it also promotes the inclusion of gender aspects in international standards. So I'm glad that the EITI has now incorporated the issue of gender into the EITI standards. The EITI helps countries to manage their natural resources sustainably. The aim is to ensure that countries with a wealth of natural resources use these to benefit of all their citizens. This is the guiding principle. There's also the question of whether all groups in society and whether women and men participate equally in the opportunities and risks in the raw materials sector. It's therefore important that the standard addresses equality both in the EITI process and in reporting and access to information. Are women equally involved in the national EITI process? This is the only way in which women's interests can be taken into account in the MSG process. Do the country reports contain information on the gender equality in employment, in participation, and in benefit and impact? This information is the basis for dialogue and change. Does the information provided by the EITI reach women as an important target group? This is the only way that participation can be fostered. In extending the standards to include gender issues, we are sending out an important signal. But the real challenge is not changing the description, but changing the situation. And this needs to take place on the ground in the EITI member countries. In 54 EITI reports, gender equality will now be treated as an important topic in the raw materials sector. We look forward to pursuing this development together with you. and with our international partners, and above all, to learning from their experience. The starting point for gender justice in Germany is the federal government's equality strategy. There's no strategy for the raw material sector alone. The equality strategy sets out our key goals to ensure that women and men can live equally well from their work, that both genders take care of those who need support, and that women and men shoulder the economy, democracy, culture, and science together. Promoting an active and effective equality policy is also a mandate in our constitution. What's important here, of course, is transparency. This is why our Pay Transparency Act stipulates that women and men must receive the same pay for equal work or work on equal value. Regrettably, the difference in pay between women and men in Germany is still around 21%. I think it's because more women work in the service sector where salaries are lower. This shows that we still have a lot of work to do, even in Germany as well. The Pay Transparency Act obliges all companies to submit regular reports on equality and equal pay. Employees have a right to information on pay structures. This is the same basic idea of the EITI, that information and transparency are the basis for progress and change. Alongside pay, another important factor is equal access to employment. We've already said that the raw material sector is undergoing a general process of technological and strategic transformation. We in the federal government see this as an opportunity to catch up and to promote the employment of women in this sector. Laws and state subsidies are key instruments for fostering equal rights, but it's the contribution of companies in society that is crucial. This is where change must take place. Companies are increasingly seeing that equal opportunities are not just a label, but are an economic issue, and that they have a tangible impact on boosting competitiveness. This can be seen in initiatives and voluntary commitments being undertaken at companies in the German raw material sector. Against the background of these state and corporate initiatives, what role can the implementation of EITI in Germany play? What role should it play? First of all, EITI reporting can be used to present the legal framework and key figures on equality in an understandable way. This follows the EITI's objective to contribute to a broad policy dialogue on raw materials. The MSG has agreed that this dialogue should address not only economic and ecological issues, but social aspects as well. Alongside our contribution to this dialogue, another important element is the signal that EITI reporting can send. By presenting positive developments in equal employment, remuneration, and participation in this sector, we can encourage women to seek a career in it. At the same time, the MSG can serve as a platform to discuss current developments. I'm convinced that we will continue to work on this issue of gender in the raw materials sector and thus help to establish this topic in the EITI, because the topic of equality is becoming increasingly important in view of the modernization and transformation processes of our time. Because we can draw on the expertise and experience of the MSG, and particularly because together with 54 EITI countries, we are now expanding the EITI's perspective. As in other areas, we will benefit from the examples and experience of other countries, and we will continue to use the EITI as a platform for exchange with you. This is why events like today's are so valuable. Thank you so much.
Elizabeth, thank you very much for that contribution. So I'd now like to open the first of our three discussions with the panel, and really to build on Elizabeth's comments, framing the context to help set the scene for the issues and challenges around gender equality in the extractive industry and the opportunities. So to start, could I encourage all of you who are listening to participate as you would like to? If you look on the platform you are using, there is a function to pose questions to the panel and to join the conversation. So please do take that opportunity. If there is a comment you would like to make or a question you would like the panel to address, please include it in the platform, and we will pick from those questions to encourage and build out the conversation. So to set the scene, could I now turn to Miguel and ask you to share with us the status of gender equality in the Colombian extractive industry?
Okay, thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Juan Camilo. It is an honor to share this panel with you. And to start with the answer, I want to say that Colombia in gender issues is very well positioned worldwide. This is thanks to the progress we have in the recent years. According to the Global Gender Gap Report of 2020 from the World Economic Forum, Colombia is ranked with a Global Gender Gap Index at 22nd out of 153 countries. Regarding with labor participation and leadership, we have 15% of boards of directors with participation of women, and 18% with executive positions in the registered Colombian companies. So if we come to the political participation, we have 21% of Colombian Congress are women. To go with more specifically in our sector, in the electric sector, there is a big presence of women, followed by hydrocarbon sector, and lastly, mining. In energy, we have 29% of jobs focused on women, according with the Colombian Association of Electric Power Generation, ACOLGEN. And hydrocarbons, we have 24% of that participation, according with ACP, that is the association that reunites the companies of oil and gas production, and with Ecopetrol, that is our biggest company producer of oil and gas. And mining, we have 8.8%, according with the sustainability survey of 2019, made with ACM, led by Juan Camilo. All these subsectors are below the national average, so we have a big challenge right here. However, we still have a long way to go. We face internal and external factors that continue to keep women out of mining and energy sector workforce. I want to speak about internal issues. We still have a lot of prejudices. Traditional, there's a thought that the extractive sector is a men's job, and external, we have to head sexism, lower salaries, and less promotion, and the lack of women and lead roles, and we have to reinforce the female training and to pay attention in the lack of support for flexible work arrangements and parental leave policies. This is mainly the internal and external facts that we have. Along this path, the energy and mining sector with the companies, associations, and government entities have shown real willingness and determination to work very close to close that gender gaps. an example of that. In March of 2019, the roadmap that we built with these guidelines were presented during that year. We have the participation of the regional of all the regions of our country. 7 regional meetings were held in 7 departments of our country, with the participation of approximately 243 persons, representatives of women's organization, civil society, association companies, the academia, and local authorities and international organizations, in order to collect their contributions and views on the problems of the sector related to gender equality and the proposals for action. In 2019, we also began to build the gender policy guidelines for the sector, and we had little official data, and we cite global and non-focused sources. Now, with the support of the associations and with the participation of more of 50 companies from 3 subsectors, we are able to collect information to allow us to have a preliminary baselines to identify those gaps in the labor market, as well as we are implementing good practices in gender equity and companies with their communities of influence. According with that, in March of this year, we officially launched the gender guidelines for the mining and energy sector, and we are in the process of adopting these guidelines by resolution, signed with our minister, to begin the implementation, which I will refer later. So I don't want to extend more. So I want to hear Juan Camilo. So
brilliant. Thank you so much for that contribution. So Juan Camilo, can you tell us more about the work that the Mining Association of Colombia is advancing in this area? Miguel has mentioned a couple of the ways you have worked together, but what is industry's perspective and what is your organization doing?
Thank you, Nikki, and thanks also to ITI for this invitation to discuss this topic that I'm very proud to be involved on it with all the women that work here in the industry and here with me in the association. Also, a special greetings to the Minister Elizabeth. Thanks for being here with us, and the Deputy Minister Miguel. Well, Nikki, thanks for the question. I have to say that both the association and the industry in general here in Colombia are very committed to promoting gender equality. We understand that it's a matter of business competitiveness and also the responsibility that the industry have to have with the communities. We also know that it's one of the sustainable development goals that which the mining industry is committed. Let me say that for the last 2 years, the association has been conducting a sustainability survey, which helped us to establish a baseline. And let me say that this is very important. We have to have in our countries a baseline and information in order to make the good decisions. This baseline provides us information as gender equity, and it shows that in 2018, the participation of women in the mining is 8.8, like Deputy Minister said. And in 2019, the last year, it goes to 12%. That means that the work that we have been here doing all together in the minister, the associations, the company, We have been increasing the participation of the women in the industry by 4 points. And also, one of what we have been doing to achieve this is working with others. This is a big goal that we have to put all the organization, all the people together. So we have been signing alliance with, for sure, the Ministry of Mines and Energy for the implementation of the gender equity guidelines for the mining and energy sector. We also have been working with Equales, which is a consulting firm on corporate gender issues, which several companies in the sector are advancing in their own equality policy and promoting annual measurement on strategic gender equality issues. We have been signing also collaboration agreements with women's groups that promote female empowerment in the industry. And also we have been signing agreements with several national and international academic institutions to allow us to expand the offer of training and also the specialized training for women in the industry. So we have scholarships directly for women in order to participate and improve the education in the sector. Let me stop here, Nikki, in order to advance, and thanks for the question.
Juan Camilo, thank you. That's fascinating and interesting, the alliances that you're building to progress this work. It strikes me so frequently how it takes many different organizations in different parts of a country and internationally to come together to progress these issues. Now, we have a couple of questions that have come through on the chat, which I'm interested to hear your reflections on and perhaps
offer of training. And also
to pose the question and then see who would like to respond. The question is, how can we ensure that we are promoting gender equality all across the extractive supply value chain, including suppliers and all other businesses associated to the industry, specifically in mining communities and regions on the ground? So perhaps Miguel and Juan Camilo, building on this, the engagement of the industry and the companies in the sector, mining companies, electricity and power companies, also interested in how can we ensure gender equality is promoted across the value chain, including suppliers and other businesses in Colombia or elsewhere. Would you like to respond to that?
Okay.
Miguel?
Okay, I think that Juan Camilo and us and mainly all the industry is very aligned with us. We think that this is a co-working space, or a co-working space between the government, between the industry, and we have the first responsibility is in head of us, the government. We have the first thing that we have put in line is the political willingness, and this is very important, and this is the key aspect that I think Juan Camilo could confirm that is the key aspect that will reunite us as industry and government to get in advance in those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, completely agree with Miguel. Under the leadership of the minister, we have been working all together in order to advance in these specific goals. And we are very, very proud what we have been achieved after 2 years of working on that. So I'm completely agree.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
May I add something?
Please, Elizabeth, please do.
The first step is to make it an issue and a topic of the reporting of the EITI. So everybody's aware of this problem and looks where are we, how is the situation along the total supply chain from the countries where raw materials come from, in Germany and other countries, and then to have a look at what happens with this, how women are involved in this, and to make this an issue of the reporting will make awareness for this problem and these chances and challenges.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you. I have another question that's come through from the chat function you may want to respond to. It's talking about the differences between men and women in the workplace, and it says there is an increasing amount of studies highlighting the different leadership skills that women bring to the table. What differences would you expect to see on the ground if there were more female mine managers, a position within the mining industry that is heavily dominated by men? So women have, it's been documented, a different leadership skill set. What do you think that would mean if there were more female mine managers on the ground, given that mine managers generally are men within the sector?
So I want to say that our former Minister of Energy was a woman. She's Maria Fernanda Suarez, and she established the lines that we can, how we can close the gap of gender equality in our sector. And our Deputy Minister of Mines of this ministry is a woman, Carolina Rojas. And he is a very exceptional leader, and we can say that he support of all the sector with the organization that the women supply to all the processes and the ability to comprehend the other with the position and sensibility with the other persons. So this is my answer for that question.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yes, may I add something? I think it's a general experience that mixed teams come to better results, because there are different ideas, different points of view that are coming together. And I think that women would prioritize especially topics of health and equal payment and security, and be more on the side of women and families. I think that would be quite different.
Brilliant. Thank you. Juan Camilo.
Well, thanks, Nikki. No, I just want to say that the mining industry, it's put together a lot of competences, a lot of in order to advance in a mine, you have to have social skills in the teams, environmental skills, technical skills, and you have to solve a very complex problems. So when you have teams with the women and men working together with different approach, with different perspectives, we are going to have better solutions for these complex, very complex problems. So like I said, it's a matter of competitiveness. The women in the middle of the teams, women in the leadership position in mining industry, it's a matter of finding a better solution for communities, for the countries, and for the world, that for sure this industry is it's a fundamental part to the development of the different countries.
Thank you, Juan Camilo. Very, very clear, strong business case put there, as well as a moral and principle-based case. Thank you. I'd now like us to turn to the next discussion topic, which is really to dive deeper into the EITI standard requirements and action on that standard. We've heard from Elizabeth some of the progress on the ground in Germany, and both Miguel and Juan Camilo, you've talked about the importance of the baseline work that you have been doing and how powerful data has been in your journey. So to start with you, Miguel, how do you see the standard supporting progress on gender equality in the extractive sector in Colombia?
Okay, thank you, Nikki. The EITI recognize the efforts to gather the data on generated impacts and enhance women's participation and empowerment to ensure that extractive resources are managed fairly and in the best interests of all citizens. For these reasons, with the change of the standard in 2019, the following aspects were included in our reports: increase the participation of the women and in decision-making spaces, and increase the data on gender on the sector. In Colombia, we have already advanced along this path. We have a high representation of women in our multi-stakeholder groups. The champion leader of the initiative, who is also the representative of Latin American country in the international board of EITI, the national coordination, the representatives of our National Department of Planning, ACP, and the Association of Oil and Gas, and ACM, the association that leads by Juan Camilo, or all women. Regarding increase the data since 2018, the report we began to ask information related to the employment, and for this the last year report we increased that information, and we are probably one of the few countries that include information about direct and indirect employment by gender, and we introduced new criteria: employment by salary, men and women, and employment by organizational structure, also men and women too. So this is my answer for that one.
Thank you very much. That's very clear. And now turning to you, Elizabeth, what about gender equality within the German MSG? So considering the mining sector is still viewed as a rather male domain, are there any difficulties with filling vacancies that arise with women? Where are you on that? I think you're on mute.
Yeah. Although women are represented in each stakeholder group altogether, there are only 9 women out of 30 members of the German MSG. The MSG has already discussed this topic and agreed that the situation is not satisfying. There are different reasons for this proportion. One reason is certainly the ratio of the mining sector in general, as mentioned above. However, this cannot be an excuse. It is therefore appropriate that the EITI standard requires a discussion, but not a quota. What I can say for the government is that the share of women in the MSG can be improved. This is positive, though that women are particularly represented in decision-making positions. The national coordinator and deputy chair of the MSG, as well as the coordinator of the government group, are both women. It is also a good sign and encouraging that with me as a woman eventually holds the position of the German EITI champion. in my opinion, the situation in the MSG can be projected to the overall sector. There is still no equal balance because for a long period of time, the sector has been indeed a male domain. Yet the trend is positive, and this is what counts at the moment.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And Juan Camilo, apart from the EITI, what other standards are being implemented or managed to address gender issues in the extractive sector?
Well, we have been working in a lot of standards, but let me just highlight one apart from, as you said, ATI standard. In May 2020, this year, we officially signed up our participation in the SDG Corporate Tracker Initiative, promoted by here in the Departamento Nacional de Planeación, but also for the United Nations and UNDP and the Global Report Initiative. And the mining sector, let me say that is the first to join this initiative, which seeks to first provide inputs to the discussion of public policies and decision-making on the contribution to the SDG in Colombia, generate analysis by economic sector that is very important, very specific, size of companies and regions, and identify and disseminate the best business practices to comply with the SDG trackers through online, and it's very online and very friendly framework in order to achieve this. And is that through online platform, standardized data is collected by companies, directly by companies, on 16 topics and 76 indicators to measure the contributions in the 89 goals of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. With this initiative, I believe we can have more concrete and specific goals in the SDG 5 regarding the gender equality. In addition, gender equality is a huge and a very important topic that is addressed in the agenda of the Coal and Human Rights Group and Gold, Copper and Human Rights Group, which are promoted here in the association. Nikki, thanks.
Thank you very much, Juan Camilo. I have another couple of questions that have come through from the chat function. It would be interesting to hear your reflections on. One is around consultation and the other is around data and what more data would be useful. So on consultation, the question is, are we consulting enough with women to see how best to support them? That could be women within the industry or women in communities. So are we consulting enough with women to see how best to support them? Interested if one of you would like to respond to that?
It's a very difficult question, but let me try. No, let me say that in my experience, in the field, in the ground, I believe that in Colombia, the communities, the participation of the women in communities are very strong. Probably we have to improve and to empower more women, and that is one of the biggest challenges that we have here in the industry. Empower women to leadership and to visualize the leadership of the women in communities. But let me say that the consultation with communities, for example, in La Guajira, which is the leader of communities are women, the participation of women are strong. That's my point of view in the field. When I have been working in the past in the industry, in companies, walking through the communities, let me say that in Colombia, the participation of the women in that communities and the interaction of the women with the companies, with the authorities, it's it's quite strong. Otherwise, we have a work to be done in order to visualize, to show to other ones the role of the woman in that community. No?
Thank you, Juan Camilo. Miguel or Elizabeth, would you like to come in on this question?
Yes, I think it's always good to talk to those who are concerned of these problems and this issue. But how we can organize a dialogue, and we have this issue in the reporting of the EITI. But I think it's also important to bring women in these positions where they are heard, in leading positions. And I think this should be the plan of the government, and to support this. Maybe I can say that in our biggest federal state, North Rhine-Westphalia, we are a little bit successful in this topic, because we see now that more women, there's increasing number of women in leading positions there. Mainly in the operative business, in open cast mines, underground, in the fields of old mining, decommissioning, and environmental protection. And that's, I think these are quite important sectors. And I think they have another point of view to what is to do to solve these problems, and especially to the situation of women, and they can tell us where they do see problems and what the solution could be. Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you. Miguel?
Okay, thank you, Nikki. I want to say I shared what Juan Camilo said, but I have to say too that we have developed a strong effort to reunite all the communities and to consult them with the participation of women in them. An example of that is our policy, were built with the participation of 7 regions of our country, and the social organization, maybe one of them. More of them led by women. So we recognize that we have a gap and a work to do, but the work that we are taking advance with our policy is developed with women and the communities led by them.
Thank you. Certainly, to share our perspective from the International Council on Mining and Metals, we bring together 27 companies and over 37 associations, of which the association Juan Camilo leads, we're very pleased is also a member. What we find, both in terms of the engagement with women in communities, our members commit to structured engagement processes with communities through project development and an ongoing basis, in which they are required to engage women and consider minority or excluded voices in that process. But it's a real challenge, and it is an ongoing challenge. Certainly within the sector, we have seen a proliferation, and I was very pleased to see Juan Camilo in the organizations you are working with in Colombia, Women in Mining being one of those organizations. And we are starting to see more organization of women within the sector to help articulate what the particular challenges are for women in pursuing a career in the extractive sector, really supporting each other, but understanding in a more evidence-based way how mentoring, how particular interventions on the part of employers and the cultural change that's often required for women to feel welcome and supported and able to excel fully, the cultural change that is required within organizations, be it a private or a public organization. Those processes of consultation, the support of organizations such as Women in Mining or International Women in Mining is important. And you're starting to see it supported by some international organizations. So the World Bank has a large, or it has a program it's working on to understand how these networks of women in mining, where they are really effective, how they can be strengthened, as well as thinking about how to engage women in the consultation processes more broadly. So the Intergovernmental Forum on Mines, Minerals, Metals and Sustainable Development, which is the sister organization to the International Council on Mining and Metals, brings together, I think, 70 countries to work on mining policy around sustainability. They have a strong focus on gender in consultation processes currently. So these are big challenges. And if we don't have the answer on this panel, it's not surprising, because they are so challenging. But thank you for those thoughts. I'd now like to move us on to the final session, discussion session, which is to really take stock of where we are now and to look ahead through this incredible disruption from COVID-19 and the impacts throughout and across industries in economies from the pandemic and how we are responding to it. So to start, Miguel, with yourself, I'm very interested to hear where you see the opportunities and challenges in gender issues through and after COVID-19.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. Sure, we have a lot of challenges and opportunities. Different studies that we have the opportunity to observe held in the last month that have shown mainly, I will mention 3 aspects. During the economic crisis, the gender gap increases. According to the National Department of Statistics of Colombia, unemployment for women in the month of July was the worst in history, while the national employment rate was on 20.2%, and that a number that we have not seen since 2001. It reaches 26.2% in the case for women. So this is a very critical challenge that we have to face. The second, the risk of violence against women increases. In addition to the fact that to that fact, due to the gender stereotypes that we have by cultural aspects in our country, they must exercise a role as a family caregiver that limits the achievement and a balance between the remote working and the responsibilities imposed at home. And third, a survey held by Ipsos in May of these years revealed that women are indeed taking a lot more responsibility for household chores, care of children and family during the pandemic, not counting the additional responsibilities for those they have in work. So I think this is the great challenge that we have to face.
Thank you, Miguel. Juan Camilo?
Yes. Well, just to add 3 probably big challenges. This is a situation that is confronting us with different and new situations. So, and for sure, the women aspect here in the industry, we have been facing a lot of challenges, but probably the first one is that to be able to achieve a correct balance between work, home, and family. Probably the women's holding her arms more these responsibilities. Women have to work, but also have to attend the kids in front of a screen trying to study, and also have to provide food, clean the house, and this reality, this new reality, is showing us in Colombia, and also to the men here in Colombia, that we have to create a more balances between women's responsibilities and men's responsibilities inside the homes. So I believe that this is a challenge, but also a big and huge opportunity. Now that we can clearly see what is happening inside the homes, we have to work in order to balance that situation. The second one, it's very sad, but we have to generate more awareness of the violence that it has been increased inside also the homes with this COVID-19. And women suffer a lot of this violence, and we have to stop it. We have to go public and to show and to have to, like you say, Nikki, change cultural behaviors in order to stop this. That happens with the door closed, and probably without this situation, probably you can't see what is happening inside the homes. And also, it's a good aspect, we have also raised the awareness and a very important thing for societies, that is that the women represent probably the 70% of social and health sectors. With women, the countries have been providing health for a lot of people. Without your work, without the support that you gave to the society in this special situation, we probably can move forward to another steps in the future. So I put on the table these three things that I believe that are very important.
Thank you both very much. At the ICMM, we have been bringing our members together and working with government and others to understand what building forward better from COVID-19 might look like. What is the opportunity for using this moment of terrible disruption and in many cases tragedy to imagine and deliver a better outcome, a cleaner, lower carbon, more just world, and what's the role of the mining sector? It's called the Building Forward Better framework. The reason I raise that is in it there is a section where we engaged on the issue of gender and how women are disproportionately impacted by this crisis and practical steps that mining companies can take to support women. There are 90 actions overall that we identify, 60 company examples, not all on gender, but we hope a very practical guide. And one of the examples from one of our members, and we are seeing a number of our company members, are developing and delivering gender-based violence awareness campaigns within their employee base, but into the communities in which they operate. Anglo-Americans Living with Dignity program is really achieving scale in South Africa, and certainly the Mining Association in South Africa has taken gender-based violence forward very strongly as a topic of area for collaboration. So all of us can do things within the sector. There is a real opportunity to engage with issues we may not have thought our hours directly, but here is an example of one. So turning now just to a broader question, as we look ahead, and for many of the people on the screen or the phone today from different parts of the world where there may not be a clear policy framework or actions on gender issues in the extractive industry, what do you think the first steps are in advancing the implementation of a gender policy, or starting to engage on these issues and progress quickly? I'll open it to any of the panelists, but we could start with Miguel.
Sure, Nikki. Thank you. We think we need 3 simple but fundamental steps. We need, I think I will mention before, political will. Without that, we cannot reunite all the organization and all the networks that we need that we need them support to work with that. Second, participatory policy. I think I mentioned before too. We have to include different stakeholders, companies, civil society, communities, and entities of the national and the regional governments. And third, it is simple, and I think I will mention before too in the work that we are with the EITI with an action plan and with goals and indicators. So I think this is simple, but I repeat, fundamental steps.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Elizabeth or Juan Camilo? Yeah.
Yes, I think every idea, every initiative is welcome, and you shouldn't wait for another step, but do all together and start with everything. Every step is valuable. But from Germany, I would like to tell you that we have the bigger companies in so-called co-determination, and there are elected works councils who are ensuring that the employer complies with the law and the regulations benefiting its employees. And there's a large awareness that everybody looks at, is there equal pay, equal salary, equal rights, to bring this into reality, and not only in the description, but that it works. Yeah, these are both it's both important, equal important to have the right, and then to make it come true. And I think the elected works councils are very important in this context. Maybe this could be an initiative for companies in other countries as well.
Thank you very much. Juan Camilo?
Thank you, Nick. Completely agree with Elizabeth. Any initiative is welcome in order to achieve this big goal. But probably, like Deputy Minister Miguel said, for sure, the first step that I believe is to include the issue on the sector's agenda. We have to put the issue on the table. And just to give to the people some ideas, for example, we have 3 initiatives here that are very strong and were very important for improve. We created 5 years ago an annual and exclusive forum to address the gender equality as an important competitiveness strategy and the role of women in the industry. In this scenario, that is very important, participate actively men and women from all mining companies, as well as senior managers, high government officials, and also international experts. And also, 2 years ago, we created the Huellas Award, an initiative that seeks to recognize the role of those women who have already stood out in the industry and who are an example for younger women. And more recently here in the association with companies, we make up the Gender Equality Committee, with which we seek to promote the transfer of knowledge and good practices in gender equality matters among our members. But an initiative, it's welcome. I believe that these two, the award that we created and also the annual forum, which is a big forum right now, are very important in order to put on the public agenda, in the public scenario, in the public discussion, the gender issue.
Thank you, Juan Camilo. So fascinating. A final question in closing, just to invite you, perhaps for those companies on the call or people in government who work with companies, what do you think are the challenges for companies in this change of mentality in a sector that's traditionally managed by men, and what would your advice to them be?
Okay.
Miguel?
Okay, if you wanna, I will start. There is a talk I said before that the energy mining sector is a man job, but the data and the studies have given enough information to know that having women in companies improves the indicators, and I want to give you some samples. One, they increase the work team's effectiveness, less turnover, more customer satisfaction, better brand recognition, better strategies to solve difficult problems, higher collective intelligence. Second, innovation. Income from innovation tends to be higher when there are more female managers. And third, better performance. More female managers or on boards of directors, it is associated with plus 44% financial profitability and less 20% lower bankruptcy risks. And fourth, a better understanding of consumer preferences. I think I talked about this a few of this a few minutes ago. Women control plus 64% of global spending. So more women in the companies facilitates the of spending patterns. And I want to remark that message. The example begins at home. Therefore, each of our organizations has the responsibility to work and to ensure a true culture of gender equality. And this is that we are doing from the Minister of Energy and Mines of Colombia.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you very much. Elizabeth, would you like to come in on this?
Yes, but it's not so easy to give a solution to this huge problem. That's not only a problem of this sector as you are talking about, but in our society and politics everywhere. It's the same to many old white men. And we need some more women, as I said before, in the mixed teams that would perform better because they bring different views, different approaches into the discussion. And maybe what can help is a quota that we have in Germany since some years to the members of the supervisory boards in big companies. At least a percentage of 30% ought to be female members of supervisory boards, and maybe this makes them more that brings them into the middle, in the focus. They have the opportunity to show what they know, what they can. And maybe in the end, we reached to build up a female network, or a mixed network would be even better, to overcome these structures that nowadays, or up to now, prevent women from coming in this situation, in these leading situations. So it's a long way. It's a long way, and we need so many steps and approaches. But we have to keep optimistic, I think, because we see a positive development. That's clear.
Thank you very much.
Well, so far from my side.
Thank you. Juan Camilo, we're very almost out of time. I wonder if you have a couple of words of encouragement or reflection.
Yes, thank you, Nikki. Let me focus on the challenges that we have in front. And probably the biggest challenge that we have here, with no doubt, is the increase in female participation in management positions. We have to have more women in the CEO position. We have to have more women in the board of directors of the companies, and also in the first level of management of the companies. That is why that we have to improve, and we have to work very hard in the next months, in the next years, in order to improve a career development plans, flexible work, and mentoring to young women in the industry, and also improve the inclusion plans in the value chain and community work to increase the impact of the entire strategic life in the companies. And also, very important, we have to improve, we have to show to the young women that the industry, it is not a male industry. That the companies are friendly, welcome to Ambery, and have flexible work in order to achieve the goals, the family goals, but also the professional goals. So we have a lot of work to do. And this dream, the CEO and the board of the directors, we have to keep in moving, and we have to keep in work in the next year. I want my daughter Valentina to be in one of these companies, the CEO or probably in the board of directors. So thank you.
That is a wonderful note to finish on. So Juan Camilo, Elizabeth, Miguel, thank you all very much for the time you have taken to prepare your thoughts and then share them today with me and with everyone on the webinar. I'd also just like to thank again the hosts and partners who convened this discussion, EITI Colombia, EITI Peru, and of course GIZ. And just to say that the recording of the discussion will be available on YouTube, and I understand that link will be sent to you or is made available on the platform. So the final words from me really are just to say thank you, an inspiring and encouraging discussion, many challenges, but some really promising progress. And an important thing for us all to be working on. So stay safe, stay well. Thank you.
Thanks to you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, Nikki, Juan Camilo.
Thank you, Miguel. Bye, Elizabeth. Bye, Nikki. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And goodbye to all of us.
Buenas prácticas y tendencias de la industria extractiva.
Implementación de energías renovables en el sector minero y la transición energética. Transparencia en la información ambiental en el sector extractivo.
Gestión y gobernanza de recursos naturales a nivel subnacional.
Mainstreaming. Avances y desafíos.
Equidad de género en el sector extractivo.